What was something that happened to you as a child that you didn't realize was scary, creepy, dangerous until you got older? My family's station wagon blew into a flat in the middle of the night on I-95 as we exited the city of Miami. I was 5 years old and riding along with my mom, grandparent, sibling and dad, who was driving when the tire blew. It was the 80s. When the tire blew, everyone freaked out a bit. For some reason, my dad kept driving on the flat, even though we were traveling at a high speed. Eventually the tire wore down or fell off and we were riding on the rim, sparkling down the freeway in the middle of the night. I remember the energy in the car turned to fear, but something was off. I was told when I was older that my dad saw a man in the center median throw a strip of nails attached to something into the middle of the highway, which my dad could not avoid. Turns out, people were using this method to rob and carjack highway drivers in the middle of the night. My dad somehow was aware of what was happening and responded accordingly by not stopping to change the tire for several miles. Luckily, we had a full-size spare. We changed the tire several miles down the road and made it home safely. My family was not carjacked and who knows what else because my dad rolled with the punches. I was driving a shortcut from Twin Palms, California to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Twin Palms is located in the desolate high desert east of La. The shortcut was all two-lane road through total nothingness, except for passing through Amboy, California. Amboy is a nearly abandoned town nearly as far below sea level as Death Valley, with a dormant volcano and lava field on one side, and a salt flat on the other. It was also, at the time, a hotspot for satanic group activity. So, I was driving by myself in the afternoon. I stopped in Amboy and snapped a picture of the city sign, just to prove I was there to friends who dared me to take that route to I-40. I got back in my car and proceeded to drive up into the mountain range between Amboy and I-40. Once I reached the top, I drive north through a canyon with high grass on both sides of the road. Up ahead I see some stuff in the middle of the road. As I approach, I slow down to see a red Pontiac Fiero stop sideways across both lanes. A suitcase opens with clothes scattered everywhere and two bodies lying face down in the road, a man and a woman. I stop 100 feet or so away, and the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. Being a Marine, I reach under the seat and pull out a 9mm pistol and chamber a round. Something seemed very wrong. It looked too perfect, as if it were staged. An ambush? Was I being paranoid? Something was just wrong. Getting out of the car seemed unthinkable. It was the horror movie move. As I scanned the road, I saw a line I could drive. Past the guy in the road on his left, swerve to the right side of the woman, behind the Fiero, and I'd be on the other side. I dropped it into first gear, punched it and drove the line I planned. I passed the back of the Fiero without hitting it or either of the bodies in the road. I continued forward a couple hundred feet and slowed down so I could breathe and let my heart slow down. As I looked up into the rearview mirror, I saw that the two bodies had gotten up to their knees, and 20 or so people emerged from the tall grass on either side of the road by the car and bodies. At that moment my right foot smashed the gas pedal to the floor, and did not let up until I had to slow down for the I-40 East on-ramp. I will never know what would have happened to me had I got out of the car to check on the bodies or stopped my car closer to them. Somehow, I do not think it would have been good. Sometimes real life can be scarier than a movie. My sister's boyfriend tried to kiss me goodnight, and he stuck his tongue in my mouth. I bit his tongue cause, well, I didn't understand it. I was 12 and pretty sheltered about that stuff. I realized after I made out with my first boyfriend what he'd been trying to do. Since people are asking, my sister was 5 years older than me, so she was 17, if I remember right. He was a year younger, so he would have been about 16. She never found out about it. They broke up after a while, but not before she lost her virginity to him, and had a big pregnancy scare. I'm still not sure why he thought it was a good idea. Dude was just weird, I guess. Had massive family problems. Last I knew, he was a bisexual man engaged to a lady with 2 kids and another on the way. I still have no idea why it happened. Me and my sister hung out at his mother's place a lot because my parents were busy with volunteer firefighting. They didn't know that we were basically being used as live-in house cleaners for this guy's mother. Nanny was supposed to pick me up from an after-school thing I was doing. She was a bit late, so I decided to walk home. The thing is, the school was 6 miles from my house, and I had to cross 2 overpasses to get there, which I did while lugging my stuffed backpack. I made it about 5 miles before getting too tired and resting next to the sidewalk near the local mall. Then this guy on a motorcycle asked if I wanted a ride. I said yes, because fuck walking in the surprisingly creepy home stretch to my house, and hopped on his bike. We ended up talking a bit, and I found out he was an armored truck driver named Ray. He dropped me off at my house, and that was the last I saw of him. My parents didn't find out until a few years later when he showed up at the house, asking for some cash to buy his kid a Christmas present, mentioning how he'd helped me out that time. I had a kindergarten teacher who always gave me extra attention. He would bring me little gifts, hold my hand, walk me to the bathroom. After a few weeks my mom started asking me questions, and I told her how he would take me into the coat closet for special talks, and would give me lots of hugs. My mom took me over to where my dad was working and had me tell him, and then we all drove up to the school, and my dad beat the crap out of him. The next day I was put in a different classroom, and I didn't see him at school anymore. When I was in 6th grade, I walked into a math class for the first time at the start of the year, and he was the teacher. It all just kind of clicked in my brain when I saw him, what he had done and might have tried to do, and why my dad beat him up. Needless to say, I went to the principal and made them call my dad, and when they told us that, since nothing was ever done legally and all that, he would keep teaching, and he was the only math teacher, my dad put me in a different school. A relative was in the hospital and I didn't want to go in, so my parents let me stay in the car. A woman was in the car next to ours waiting in the driver's seat. A man walked up to her car door and pulled it open. I was young enough not to remember why we were at the hospital, but what he said to her is still clear in my memory. "You're going to drive me back to your place and we're going to fuck." I remember her yelling something along the lines of "what the fuck no." And then they started fighting. I got scared and hid where your feet go in the back seat, really not wanting this man to see me. Eventually I heard the car leave. I have no idea what happened and I never told my parents. When I told a friend, he said he was probably her family member and she was crazy. That discouraged me from telling anyone. He wasn't there and didn't hear the man's vicious tone and the woman's terrified one. Riding around with my dad as he drove while so drunk, he could barely walk. This happened every weekend. I saw him arrested for DUI several times and know quite a few other times he was arrested for the same thing. This back in the 1960s and 70s. From the replies to this post, I find it amazing that we all survived our childhood. I grew up in Detroit and because violence was the norm, I didn't realize how terrible some of the stuff I witnessed was. I even thought, cool, a good story to tell the kids at school. One particular story is of when my neighbors crossed the street, the couple and the sister of the couple got into a very violent fight. There was so much blood, the husband or boyfriend was beating his lady and kicking her all over her porch. Then when her sister came home midway, she's like, hell no, and gets a 2x4 from the alley and starts beating the crap out of the guy. He leaves and gets something else and starts beating her, and the girlfriend is just trying to break it up, but she's getting hit and they're all really beaten up. I live with my grandparents, these sweet old classic Mexican types from the country, and we just all go sit on the porch and watch what the crazy white trash neighbors are doing, and it never occurred to me to call 911 or do anything. When the cops came, I remember thinking that calling them was a good idea. When I was younger, we moved into a house in the woods. It wasn't completely finished yet, no screens on the windows, unpaved driveway, just dirt and rocks, etc. We also had a huge wolf spider infestation. Apparently the house was built on the headquarters of all wolf spiders in the US. Wolf spiders can vary somewhat in appearance. Some were gray and very hairy, some were brown and smoother. I freaked out when I saw one at first, but then I thought, they look really cool, so as long as they don't bite me, it's okay. Anyways, eventually I just got used to them. Sometimes I'd see a baby wolf spider and just sort of play with it, otherwise I'd just let it be around while I do whatever I did as a child. Either way, they were everywhere. It wasn't until much later that I saw what young wolf spiders really look like, and the things I had been playing around with the whole time were brown recluses. When I was 10, I was given some money to go to the gas station to get some soda and candy for me and my mom. When I was walking to the store, a Mexican in an old car came driving real slow like. He asked me if I wanted a ride. I said, shit yes. He starts asking me about school and stuff starts getting weird. It smells awful in his car. Later on, I realized it was black velvet. So, we were at a stoplight across from the gas station. I bolt. I ran to the gas station and started jumping on the tube to make the bell go off. The old man who owns it came out and threatened to beat my ass, until he realized the Mexican was staring at me from his car. Well, he yelled some choice expletives at the Mexican and tell me to go inside. Old man calls my mom, and she told me to walk home and don't drop our sodas. I could have been kidnapped if not for the surly old racist. My stepfather is a pedophile. I realized it until I found child pornography on his phone. Even this, I was a bit doubtful. I look back now at all the things we had done, the situations we were in, the dirty positions we accidentally found ourselves in, and it makes me want to vomit and die. I couldn't believe I didn't find something fishy when the cops got called on us at Pizza Hut because the family thought he was acting too inappropriately with me. He continued to get crazier and creepier, and even gradually attempted to kill my mom, so I assumed he could have me alone. I told you all my childhood horrors and I'm a bit disappointed to be accused of lying, although I should have expected it. My story is 100% real, and I am still living in hell because of that man. I have night terrors, I have several mental illnesses, I'm incredibly depressed and often suicidal, and I am a victim and trauma are real. You have the right to your opinions, you have the right to not believe my story. But please understand, this has ruined my life. Sorry, I slept a while. We moved away back in 2011, and life has gotten better since then. I'm 15 right now and have been in multiple psychiatric hospitals since then because of attempted suicides, self-harm, and a few psychotic episodes. I have nightmares to this day, every day it seems like. I can't get over what he did. Her brains washed us into believing the outside world was bad. He would deny my mother medical care. She's physically disabled and has chronic pain, wouldn't take her to the dentist so all her teeth fell out, and she desperately needed a hysterectomy because she was constantly losing tons of blood on her period. He lives 250 miles away but is still in our life because he and my mom are married. My mom can't afford to get a divorce, and he refuses to pay for it because he wants to still be legally my stepfather, even though I don't ever talk to him. An answer to a reply below. I also apologize for the new account. I have had multiple in the past, but I'm constantly deleting and remaking them because the accounts never feel complete or never feel right. OCD is not something I enjoy having. Fitness, where do I start? I've been approached 4 times to hop into cars. Didn't think anything of it and just said no. A lady once tried to coax us across the road with some lilies. Luckily our friend's mom was there. I nearly drowned while trying to keep up with the adults in the ocean. I jumped off the roof of our house onto our trampoline. Definitely not a smart idea. My mom nearly killed us all when she drunk like forgot to turn the gas stove off before passing out. I was in a taxi with my mom when a taxi almost took off with me inside when mom hopped out. My brother started a fire when he was 2 and I a newborn. I was in my cot and he snuck matches into my room. Started a fire then hid in the cupboard. I was in a serious head-on car incident and thought my dad was doing donuts. We had someone break into our house that we had just moved into. They had bats, etc. My brother hid me in a cupboard. Well, my parents kicked ass. Never mess with a feisty Asian lady and naked fat man. What else? Oh, the first time swimming in a beach in Australia, I swam with a swarm of blue bottles. I had stings everywhere including inside my throat. I'm sure there are plenty more.